Well, good afternoon. Oh, that was pretty weak. Are we awake? Good afternoon. That's better. Reverend Dale Sutton, I'm the pastor of Connections here at Gay Street. We want to welcome you to Gay Street for this afternoon's presentation that I think will be entercational, right? Both entertaining and educational, we hope. We are certainly glad you're here. For those of you who are not used to our big maze of a church, if you go behind you, right back towards the big doors, there's a restroom on the left of those doors. Or if you go through either of these doors on the right, you have to go through the parlor, and there's both a men's and a women's over there in the hallway. I think that's about all I need to say at this point. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Sarah and JD.
Alrighty, thank you. Oh, I'm on. Uh-oh, that's scary.
If you haven't, please silence your cell phones.
Oh,
Just a reminder that we all need now and then. We're going to start with a song just to kind of get all of ourselves warmed up and in the mood for having a good time and learning something. You know it, but the words will be on the screen.
amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that brought me here thus far, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known less days to sing God's praise than when we'd first begun.
Well, it wouldn't be church if we didn't take an offering, right? But we are going to pass the baskets this afternoon. The money raised will go to Giving Hope Charity. It's a local charity started by the police department a few years ago to make Christmas real for some of the most disadvantaged children in our area, in our community. And so, as always, I hope you'll give as generously as you're able, knowing that it's going to a good cause. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll pass that basket in a little while, not quite yet. In March, I turned 61, and my grandfathers were 98 and 100 when they died. So if I live to their average of 99 years old, I have about 38 years left as I stand here today. What do you suppose life on this planet will be like 38 years from now in the year 2063? Has a certain hopelessness about the environment taken up residence in your heart and mind? And we know the atmosphere is heating up. Have you seen something like this? These climate stripes The Earth is getting warmer and warmer on average. Here's another version of it. Hotter and hotter every year. We also know that extinctions are accelerating. This is a list of extinct species just on this continent alone. And you'll see this list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to let it run or we'll be here all afternoon. We know that our overconsumption threatens ecosystems and the habitats within them globally because all this stuff comes from everywhere. How much stuff do you own that your great-grandparents simply didn't even need? How much of your stuff would you actually miss if it were gone? Is Christmas today really better than it was in Laura Ingalls' day when a single orange or a new pair of socks brought tears of joy and gratitude? And we have families in this community with that kind of need and gratitude, as evidenced by the organization that we're fundraising for today. We also know human population is exploding. And just notice the correlation between human population and extinctions. They track together. So we humans formed the UN for the purpose of preventing war, and yet wars continue, including this constant threat of nuclear war. And war is never good for the environment. Pollution, fascism, I could go on and on. And none of these trends is getting better currently. So I'm aware that many of us are in denial. Some people give up altogether. But we all know the situation is increasingly dire. This comic is a couple of years old now, but I think it still applies. We know something has to change. And it seems like it should be really simple, right? If it's getting too hot, stop burning stuff. Right? If we're choking on plastic, just stop using plastic. But I think many of us, myself included, we feel kind of stuck. We're caught, stuck in an ecocidal global economic system. And there's this huge tangle of intersecting problems that we're all sort of complicit in. I think we're a little bit like addicts. We know we're causing harm to ourselves and to the earth, yet we can't seem to stop doing it. I drove here a couple days ago from Pennsylvania in a car that mostly burns gasoline. When I know that my behavior is harming myself and others, and yet I can't seem to stop doing it, that is a moral crisis. Do you feel that? Environmental degradation is a moral crisis, and we are each at the center of it. We're, in a way, complicit with it. Raise your hand if life feels excessively chaotic lately, maybe even a little insane. Yeah? Some of us? This is not good for us. Have you experienced this? You finally, like you've done all the stuff you need to do, you finally have a chance to sit on your porch or your front steps with your favorite cup of tea or coffee and just enjoy some quiet when suddenly one of your neighbors fires up a leaf blower. Have you had that? Oh, you are lucky. Peace and quiet can be hard to come by today. My spouse Ann and I often walk in our neighborhood at around 7 a.m., and the bird song is lovely. But there's always this kind of background of distant traffic noise that's louder, actually louder, in addition to the mowers and leaf blowers that might be operating on any given morning. And the poet Claire Wamenholm wrote this poem about that, and the title is also the first line. She writes, "You can always hear the highway beneath the eastern phoebe. It hums alongside the hermit thrush and indigo bunting. It's almost like a river, but it is not a river. It is not outrunnable. There are moments when the marsh wrens die down and the highway fills them like the blood in your ears. There are no real lulls. You could call the highway a zipper because of the way it buzzes above the ruby-crowned kinglet and the willow flycatcher. You could call it a drone or a moan. I have never heard a vesper sparrow or a dark-eyed junco. A chickadee is hatching crisply from its egg. A gray catbird is ripping a millipede from the meadow, but how would you know? The highway's sound is like a strong wind or like a heavy curtain being dragged along the ground. It is louder than the alarm call of any bird, louder than the noise a barn swallow makes when it is being eaten. I may never hear a brown thrasher, a pine warbler, a rose-breasted grosbeak, a common yellowthroat. There are 160,955 miles of highway in America. That poem again by Claire Wamenholm. Sometimes I long for just 1 square inch of silence.
There's a man named Gordon Hempton who travels the country recording sounds, and he has documented an actual place called 1 Square Inch of Silence. It's in the Hoh Rainforest out in Washington State. And it is a place where no extraneous noise, not even jets flying overhead, can be heard. And there's a little stone, a little red stone, that marks the spot. Furnace clicks, airplane thrums. Overhead, fluorescent light bulbs hum. Mow the lawn, blow the leaves. Squeaky wheels need some grease. Dogs bark, baby cries. Fridge and washer chime in their reply. Swish, buzz, ding, computer, phone. How I long to be alone. 1 square inch of silence. The smell of earth is on the breeze. Where the still and quiet covers me. A clean and mossy blanket on the trees. 1 square inch of peace. A small red stone the ancients guard, where I put my quiet thoughts in a jar. Make a wish for room to breathe, air, sky, water, land, and trees. 1 square inch of silence, the smell of earth is on the breeze. Where the still and quiet covers me, a green and mossy blanket on the trees. 1 square inch of peace. 1 square inch of silence. The smell of earth is on the breeze. Where the still and quiet covers me, a green and mossy blanket on the trees. 1 square inch of peace.
Play along with me here and call to mind someone who lived long ago and far away. It could be anyone. Someone who lived long ago and far away. Anybody? Who are you thinking of? Still didn't hear it. Ben Franklin. Okay. Any others? Johann Sebastian Bach. Good. One more.
Oops.
Van Gogh. Okay, lots of artistry. Now, take a deep breath with me. Well, you just breathed in over 13 sextillion air molecules, and over 700 million of them were at some point inside the lungs of those people you called out. This is true of everyone who ever lived. All of them, in a way, are here in the air of this room with us. Air and water molecules are so small and they're so numerous, and they cycle around the earth so constantly that every breath of air that you take and every sip of water contains molecules that were once inside the bodies of not only every person who ever lived, but every creature that ever lived. So we can't really separate ourselves from these natural cycles like the water cycle and the atmosphere. We are in them. And you know, we teach kids about the Earth's cycles as though they were out there somewhere, but they're also right here. We are embedded in those cycles, and they are in us. We, in a way, are those cycles in human form. We're not just interconnected and interdependent with Earth and its systems, but we are interbeing with them. We're part of this greater whole. Kind of like the trillions of cells in my body are each an essential part of a greater whole that I call myself. I want to share a true story with you from Umair Haque from India. And he tells of a little girl growing up in India. And she's 5 years old when this happens, bright and curious and intelligent. And one day in 2022, the girl asked her mother a question. She said, "Mommy, where's the monster?" At first, her mom kind of dismissed it. You know, kids will be kids. They ask all kinds of crazy questions. But the girl kept asking. There was something she didn't understand. Something was wrong. And she wanted an explanation. Again and again. "Mommy, where's the monster?" This went on for a whole week. And finally, wondering if something really was wrong with her daughter, her mother said, in a combination of kind of exasperation and concern, she said, "Darling, there's no monster. Monsters aren't real. You know that. What makes you think there's a monster? What monster?" "The monster that's killing all the birds, Mommy." For weeks, there had been a heat wave with temperatures reaching 50 degrees Celsius, or 122 Fahrenheit, in March in India. Birds were just falling from the skies dead. Little girl had drawn the only conclusion she could. There was a monster making birds fall dead from the sky, leaving them just littering the streets and balconies and roofs of the city. You ever played the game Jenga? Well, an ecosystem is like a Jenga stack, and just like in Jenga, you can lose a few members here and there, but if you keep removing them, at some point, it all comes crashing down. Unlike Jenga, humans are not separate from Earth's ecosystems. We're just one of those blocks. We can crash too. There are things that every creature needs to live.
This song's called All Living Things, and I wrote it with the first graders at Dan Emmett Elementary many years ago with the help of their music teacher, Laura Ackert. What do we need? All living things. What do we need? All living things. We need air comes from the trees on the wind. You can't hold it in your hand, but feel it on your face. It's everywhere, but not in outer space. What do we need? All living things. What do we need? All living things. We need food to help us grow, so we can run and play. Ready, set, go. If you're a bear or a busy bee, whatever you eat gives you energy. Sing along, what do we need? All living things. What do we need? All living things. We need water, clean and good to drink. The taste on your tongue keeps you in the pink. If you're a plant, you get it from the ground, from rivers and rain. Waters all around. What do we need? All living things. What do we need? All living things. We need shelter from too much sun, ice and snow will make you numb. Or where it's safe, it might be in the sea, a den or a cave, your house or in a tree. What do we need? All living things. 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 Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
That is so cool. I just love that video. So we're in crisis, but crisis brings opportunity, right? A mentor of mine once said, never let a perfectly good crisis go to waste. For example, we are only here because the extinction of the dinosaurs allowed our mammalian ancestors to flourish. Another example, Hawaii is this lush rainforest somehow growing on the side of an active volcano. How can that be? Well, it turns out that lava breaks down really quickly when it's exposed to rain and other kind of erosive forces, making soil with lots and lots of trace minerals. So as soon as that lava cools, it starts to break down and life moves in because it's really fertile soil. And believe it or not, Sarah actually has a song about that.
Sarah has songs about a lot of stuff. So we were visiting Yellowstone National Park several years ago, and there had been the wildfires that had come through many years before we were there, and I was just, it's an overwhelming sight. It's just devastated hills, just still black and charred, and yet from that are little trees growing. Little things are coming up. And I learned that it was 631,000 years ago when the volcano erupted, creating what is now that national park. The eruption affected the land as far away as Texas, and the ground, the caldera, is still basically on fire. We drove north of the park and came back into another, entered from another spot, and we went through Paradise Valley in Montana, and then we went through a town called Pray, and it is spelled P-R-A-Y, not E-Y. And I just thought that was all too good to leave alone. In the valley of paradise, on my way to pray, in the place where fire not eyes shape the land this way, the river of steam flows for miles on its journey to the sea. Nothing cools the caldera, nothing takes away the heat. Hills are scorched from fire, far as the eyes can see. Charcoal stumps and spires that once were trees. The power of those flames, the heat inside the earth, something I can't name. Say a prayer for rebirth. In the valley of paradise, on my way to pray, in the place where fire not eyes shape the land this way, the river of steam flows for miles on its journey to the sea. Nothing cools the caldera, nothing takes away the heat. Beyond the rim lie singing fields, lush and green again, so much concealed. Fire and ice appear, time and seasons pass. Can we save what we revere and make it last? In the valley of paradise, on my way to pray, in the place where fire not eyes shape the land this way, the river of steam flows for miles on its journey to the sea. Nothing cools the caldera, nothing takes away the heat. We need to divide, need to cut the planet in half. People on one side, and is left, untouched by human greed. The healing can begin, and like the phoenix, we can rise and live again. In the valley of paradise, on my way to pray, in the place where fire, not ice, shape the land this way. The river of steam flows for miles on its journey to the sea. Nothing cools the caldera, nothing takes away the heat. Nothing cools the caldera, nothing takes away the heat.
I've come to believe that the underlying problem in our environmental crises goes much deeper than our behavior. I think it has to do with how we see ourselves in the world, with our worldview. Compared with indigenous cultures that were sustainable for thousands of years, our culture tends to emphasize separation, ownership, short-term thinking, individualism, things, and linearity, linear logic. And this worldview is literally unnatural. Science is revealing that reality is founded on the patterns over on the right of my slide here. Kinship, cooperation, deep time evolution and change, generosity, integration and interbeing, and circularity. What would a modern worldview based on these patterns, these acknowledgments, what would it look like? Instead of constantly fighting with natural processes, what if we worked with them, aligned our behavior with them? And how will we treat each other during the difficult transition from our current worldview and all of its dysfunctions, and one that's better aligned, that's better, more sustainable? I'm going to let Sarah's next song answer some of those questions.
This song's called Walk with the Wind. John Lewis, congressman from Georgia, was a civil rights worker from a very young age. He wrote a book called Walking with the Wind. And in the beginning of the book, he tells this remarkable story, and it starts with a storm at his aunt's tiny home out in the country where he was playing with his many, many cousins. And the storm came up, and so his aunt said, "Quick, come inside, come inside." And so they did. But the wind was so huge, and the house was so tiny that it started to lift the house off the ground. I can't even imagine how frightening that would be. She told them to hold hands and walk toward the end of the house where that was lifting up from the wind. And so they made this little line, and they all held hands, and so the house was lifting up over here, so they all ran over there, and then it was lifting up, so they ran over this way. So they just kept running to keep the house weighed down from the storm. That image just really was so powerful. And as I read his book, I folded down lots of corners, which I know you're not supposed to do in a book, but it's my book, so I did that. And I came up with a number of his favorite sayings, one of which his mother would always tell him, "Now, John, don't you go getting into trouble." And he would say, "Nothing but good trouble, Mama." So, walk with the wind, children, walk with the wind. When the storm is rumbling across this land. Join your hands together and begin. Walk with the wind, oh children. When darkness comes and you're afraid, you feel like running away, find another's hand and hold it tight. Lift your face to the light. Walk with the wind, children, walk with the wind. When the storm is rumbling across this land, join your hands together and begin. Walk with the wind, oh children. When the floor shifts under your feet and your house is drifting in the street, nothing comes but good trouble when you take the hand of a friend. Sing with me. Walk with the wind, children, walk with the wind. When the storm is rumbling across this land, join your hand together and begin. Walk with the wind, oh children. When hope seems lost and out of reach, and the path you're on is way too steep, words won't ease where you land as much as a human hand. Walk with the wind, children, walk with the wind. When the storm is rumbling across this land, join your hands together and begin. Walk with the wind, oh children. Have compassion and willful stubbornness. Be patient and persist. Let your pilot light forever burn. Don't leave this earth without doing your turn. Walk with the wind, children, walk with the wind. When the storm is rumbling across this land, join your hands together and begin. Walk with the wind, oh children. Walk with the wind, oh children.
So about those kids and Christmas time and the charity that we're raising money for today, this is the time for passing the baskets. Please give as you are able.
Thank you for remembering that. Oh, I think they're. I can't talk about it because it's okay. It's okay.
Generously given and gratefully received.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a weird question for you. How do atoms get made? They haven't always existed, you know. They do have very, very long lives, but they haven't always been here. The early universe had no atoms, only quarks. It took 147,000 years for the first atoms to form as the universe cooled and expanded after the Big Bang. And then we only had atoms of hydrogen, the simplest and lightest element, plus a little bit of helium and a tiny little bit of lithium. So where'd all this stuff come from? Well, at really high temperatures, like the temperatures you find inside the sun, atomic nuclei, like hydrogen, can smash together and stick in a process called fusion, nuclear fusion. And stars like our sun can make bigger and bigger atoms up to iron on the periodic table of elements. And I want to share with you a short video clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astronomer, who's the executive director of the Hayden Planetarium at the Natural History Museum in New York City. And Larry is going to help us with the sound a little bit.
To phenomenon in the cosmos.
Wait, let me start it again so you can hear it.
I know that the molecules in my body are traceable to phenomenon in the cosmos. And it's our 15 pounds of gray matter that figured this out. There's a kinship with the cosmos that resonates deeply with New Age thinking, but I'm not apologetic about that. It's what we find. If whatever we find resonates with whoever, go ahead, take it. And when I reflect on our kinship with the cosmos, when I do the calculation that shows that a 15-ton meteorite that we have in the center of the Rose Center for Earth and Space, it's an iron meteorite. When I do the calculation that shows that if you take all of the iron from the hemoglobin of the people in the tri-state area of New York City, you can recover that much iron out of their blood and realize that the iron from that meteorite and the iron from your blood has common origin in the core of a star. Tell me what part of my brain is lighting up, because that excites me. That makes me want to grab people in the street and say, have you heard this?
When you eat breakfast cereal that's fortified with iron, you're eating star stuff. And once it's inside you, it becomes alive as part of the living systems of your body. And it's not just iron. Every element, every atom except hydrogen and some helium was forged in the cores of stars. And I'm focusing on iron here because Sarah's next song does, but all of this applies to, well, everything. Atoms have life stories of their own, long, ancient ones, with chapters that include being stars, mountains, oceans, anything and everything you can imagine, coffee cups, including being you right now for a very brief time that we call your life. So I want to share an excerpt from a longer poem I wrote titled An Atom's Life. If carbon could choose, would it be a diamond or a daughter? There are entire planets of solid diamond. They do not smell like macaroni or squeal with laughter swinging between strong hands strolling through gentle breezes. They cannot cuddle under downy quilts for communion, cannot dance under hot, pregnant skies, their breath and sweat mingling into ancestral iron-rich soils. If iron could choose, there would be no asteroids. They would fall in swarms, rusty storms of shooting stars, each atom straining with aspiration to become blood-red hemoglobin, light-loving retinol, muscular myoglobin of living motion, each atom coveting a chance to live, to bleed, to see the stars, and to reach for them in person. Atoms can't choose, but we can. And what we do with Earth's atoms will reverberate through the cosmos forever. like ripples on a pond or the sound of a bell.
One of my favorite books of all time is a book called A Gentleman in Moscow. And the author, Emerge Howells, wrote, "From bells to cannons and back again until the end of time, such is the fate of iron ore." I keep journals for writing songs, and I wrote that down in I don't know how many journals. I kept coming back to it and writing it again in another journal because I couldn't figure out what to do with it until I met a friend named Joe Herrera who lives in Nashville, and I met him on Zoom taking a songwriting class. And we wrote this together, and it was super cool. And he's coming this summer for the Front Porch concerts, just so y'all know. Don't forget those concerts coming up. Anyhow, we'll be doing this song together on June 20th. Bells ring bright at sunrise, inviting all to church. The distant rumble of the guns, echoing men's sturdy work. They were melted down by sunset, churchgoers were long gone. The distant woods were filled with smoke as the fighting raged on and on. Bells into cannons, such a sorry state. Beauty into instruments of devastating waste. We are all reshaped by the constant call to war. Such is the fate of iron ore. Such is the fate of iron ore. Who'll mourn the ringing sounds bells no longer make? When the silent souls rest in the fields while the cannons rust in the rain. Bells into cannons, such a sorry state. Beauty into instruments of devastating waste. We are all reshaped by the constant call to war. Such is the fate of iron ore. Such is the fate of iron ore. What if man could turn from death, recast from cannon into bell, whose ringing is all that stops your breath? Bells into cannons, such a sorry state. Beauty into instruments of devastating waste. We are all reshaped by the constant call to war. Such is the fate of iron ore. Such is the fate of iron
So a man was driving down a curvy mountain road like this one, and this woman driving a convertible comes careening around the bend, almost slams right into his car, and as she passes, she yells, "Pig!" Angry and offended, the man yells back, "Sow!" and then accelerates around the bend, smack into a large pig standing in the middle of the road. How we see the world depends on our internal frameworks. If you change your worldview, the world you experience changes too. This old framework we're in sees each of us as separate individuals in competition with one another to dominate our surroundings, our environment. And that view is at odds with reality, which is interconnected and interdependent at every level and scale. We can stop thinking of our surroundings as resources and begin thinking of them as kin, as relatives. The iron, the ocean, the oil, the trees, and the insects, they are in Earth's cycles with us as independent parts of a single being, Earth. We have glimpses of this ancient worldview. My slides are not cooperating with me. We have glimpses of this worldview that feels new to us, but we're in the transition time right now. So I kind of find myself going back and forth. I want to be more consistent in choosing alignment, compassion, and humility over domination and security and individuality. It's an internal process of growth and discernment. Productivity or family, comfort and convenience, or caring for future generations. In the words of Sarah's next song, we can each choose to feed the right wolf.
Grandfather, I am afraid. There's a choice to be made. When the time comes, how will I know which way to turn, which way to go? who is open and kind. Bright are his eyes, clean is his heart. Make him welcome and find. Feed the right wolf. 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 Feed the right wolf.
Some people have taken, as you probably know, taken to describing humanity as some kind of cancer on the body of the earth. A sort of rapacious, greedy growth that hoards and wastes resources, leaving pain and devastation everywhere it goes. Well, maybe it's an apt analogy, except that it's not humanity that's the problem. Indigenous humans lived for tens of thousands of years, mostly sustainably. Some are even today. It's not our humanity that makes us cancerous. It's our worldview, our culture, our values. Modern genetics tells us that there is only one family of living things on this planet. Every living thing is a distant cousin of yours and mine. And you know, Native Americans didn't need modern genetics to know this. But, you know, whatever it takes, we know now. And that's the thing. Science is now doing what our religions have, in a way, failed to do. Relig is Latin for reconnecting, for binding us together again with each other and with the larger reality. Healing Earth starts with healing ourselves of the mental illness of separation and domination. Separation from the family of life, separation from our own ancestors and descendants, and domination over sacred systems that we've forgotten are part of our larger selves. How do we heal?
Feels like it's February, so long ago. I could swear I hear the very voice I used to know. The ritual I go through year after year. The only thing I know to do. With a shovel in my hand, without a sound. Opening the earth, I plant a seed in this dust turned to mud, cold winter rain. I don't know how to stop the flood, pushing back the water with my hands, holding on to all I have in my command, waiting for the willow and its greening, waiting for the healing. Every season the signals change, that never comes. I am frozen deep inside, if only I were numb. The ground so hard and barren needs a blanket for the cold. I fear this emptiness will never end. Pushing back the water with my hands, holding on to all I have in my command, waiting for the willow and its greeting, waiting for the healing. Ice melts to water, cold begins to burn, colors seep from earth warmed by the sun, tears flow past the point of no return, till they become a song upon my tongue, pushing back the water with my hands, holding on to all I have in my command, waiting for the willow and its greening, waiting, watching the willow and its greening.
The cool thing is, we don't have to do this alone. Humans are a social species. Cooperation is our superpower. You know, evolution is not all about competition. That's part of it, but it's only half the story. The earliest life was single-celled, and at some point, those little critters cooperated to make multicellular critters, eventually including some really complex ones like mammals, like ourselves. And then some complex multicellular species cooperated in family groups and became social species. Humans are especially good at cooperating. The natural world offers lots of examples of interspecies cooperation, really everywhere we look. And of course, biologists call this symbiosis. And in the last few decades, we've learned that, for one example, underneath the forest floor, there are entire empires of these fungal networks connecting trees together, carrying messages from roots to roots. And the fungi borrow the equivalent of a cup of sugar from their lofty plant neighbors and then provide needed minerals in return. So a forest is a village, it's a neighborhood where neighbors cooperate just as much as they compete. We live among relatives, not resources. If we can just expand the scope of our cooperation to include whole ecosystems, that by itself would represent a sea change in our worldview. When we view nature as part of our community, part of our neighborhood, better choices are just going to follow naturally.
Whoops.
Missed some slides. There we go.
So Margaret Mead had a theory, and I guess she still has a theory. She's just not with us anymore. Anyway, her theory was that a broken femur that has healed is a sign of civilization, because no animal can survive without help in the circumstance of a broken femur.
Femur is the biggest bone.
The big bone in here that holds us up. And whatever animal, it would be very difficult for an animal to survive with a big broken bone like that. So this song, it's called What You Got, or What You Got. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. We're at our best when helping someone in a rough spot. So if you do something else, you won't get what you got. Coyote has a broken leg. He's out there on his own. He cannot run or hunt for food. He will die alone. You and I are different. If you fall, I am there to pick you up, keep you alive, because I care. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. We're at our best when helping someone in a rough spot. So if you do something else, you won't get what you got. Turtle's foot is in a net. She has no way to swim. She's way out in the ocean. Her survival chances slim. You and I are different. I will find a rope for you to grab. I'll pull you in and give you hope. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. We're at our best when helping someone in a rough spot. So if you do something else, you won't get what you got. Red Hawk has cry. You and I are different. I'll find a way to get you home to your family, so you're all safe and not alone. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. If you do what you did, you're gonna get what you got. We're at our best when helping someone in a rough spot. So if you do something else, you won't get what you got. Yeah, if you do something else, you won't get what you got.
Anyone have children? Yeah, a few? Would you fight with a rabid dog to save your child? I'm seeing some nods, yeah. Would you take a bullet for your child? Enter a burning building? Yeah, right? We would. Would those answers change if it was someone else's child? Yeah, I'm seeing some little shakes of the head. Probably not. How about grandchildren? Great-grandchildren? Does our care for children diminish with each generation? It doesn't, right? This is my mom with her great-grandchildren, and I'm pretty sure her concern for them matches her concern for me. So if you knew it would save a child's life, would you lower your thermostat? Line dry your clothes? Accept a lower salary in a more sustainable industry? Drive less and bike more? Maybe eat a little less meat? What would you do for the grandchildren? There are children who will be born after all of us in this room are long gone. And I promise you, they are as lovable and as worth saving as the children you already know and love. Their house is on fire now. How will they know that we love them? How will they know?
We planted trees today over Shadley Valley Way. We planted trees today. Those trees now firmly planted in the soil will one day shelter those who toil. And when the autumn hues are bright, many view them with delight. We planted trees today over Shadley Valley Way. We planted trees today. In my heart, I know God made them tall for children to climb and adults to hold in awe. Splendors are many, that's His plan, all spread out across this land. We planted trees today planted trees today over Shadley Valley Way. We planted trees today. We planted trees today over Shadley Valley Way. We planted trees today.
We don't mean to imply that planting trees is the only thing we can do. So we have our work cut out for us. We can do this. And what we know about material reality can help serve as a guide. Kinship, cooperation, deep time thinking, simplicity, interconnection, generosity. If we make it through the next 38 years, it's not going to be some kind of utopia. But there will be songs, I hope, both from humans and our bird cousins. And Sarah has a song about that, too.
I hear the birds singing, it's morning light. They're bringing across the sky through the blue to my window. I hear the birds. Phoebe calls, again I hear her from the 9. She is nearer. Last year's nest is beckoning at my back door. Phoebe calls. Morning dove cries a warning of heat to come after the morning. Later on, she'll coo again before the owl. Morning dove. Daylight's pulled in each direction like a piece of soft confection. Spring is sweet like the song of the birds as day grows long. I hear the birds singing, it's morning light. They're bringing across the sky through the blue to my window. I hear the birds.
Thank you for being here today. This has been fun for us, I know. Huge thank you to Gay Street United Methodist Church for inviting us, and to Carol, somewhere up there behind all that equipment, for handling all the tech today. Thank you to Larry Reed for being a third pair of hands, and thanks to all of you for spending some time with us today.
And we have yummy things out in the parlor, so please join us out there. JD has some of his wonderful books out there, and I, of course, have CDs, which nobody has CD players anymore, but, you know, they make nice coasters. Anyway, please join us out there and for some conversation and some snacks. Thank you so very much for coming.